What's up, everybody? Rothstein here, Betting Public Sports Show. I'm your beloved host, Fame Rothstein, a.k.a. Michael Snackson. Today's Monday, May 11th, 2026. Please like and subscribe to the channel, leave comments, share the video. I don't know when we're going to do sports betting. Maybe this weekend. I don't know. I'm just kind of, just doing videos. It's just like, okay, I just want to make my bet and go, but I feel like I need to share some love. That's why I do it. Plus, remember, like I told y'all, I flatlined at a hospital. And, when I come out of there, my speech was messed up. So I started doing podcasts so I could talk and, get my speech back together. So kind of my own personal speech therapy. But I digress. I'm about to go in because I'm sick of all this discourse about Victor Wembanyama. Those of y'all don't know, Victor Wembanyama, from France. I guess his dad's some type of African, Nigerian maybe. But yeah, Wembanyama. Last night in the NBA playoffs against Minnesota, he gave a good elbow to the dome. I think it was Nas Reed. NBA office came out today, said there'll be no, he was ejected. Victor was ejected from the game. Wemby was ejected from the game. NBA office comes out today and says there'll be no further punishment. And all these various social media groups are talking all this and that. He should be the NBA is this, and he should be suspended for the rest of the series, the rest of the playoffs, or he should be suspended at least a game. He's not. You know why he's not going to be suspended? Now, if he does it again, some shit like that, they'll probably catch him and give him a game. But you know why he's not going to be suspended? You know why he wasn't suspended? One, he doesn't have a history of this type of shit. Techs and dirty play, elbows to the two. But two, most importantly, Wemby matters to the NBA. Unfortunately, I'm sure he's a hell of a guy. Nas Reed doesn't. Point blank. I'm so glad the NBA didn't suspend him. Not because I'm one of these guys. No, Wemby's must-see TV, this, that, and the other. No. I'm glad they didn't because they bringing back the pecking order of sports. Bringing back the pecking order. The players that matter, the players that the people actually pay to see, they usually get lighter punishments. The pecking order. Prime example, they were talking about Ron Artest, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, however long ago it was. He cracked Ron Artest out of St. John's. He was playing for I forget who he was playing at the time, maybe Houston, or wherever he was playing for, as James Harden was running back down court. This was James Harden without a beard, when he was playing for Oklahoma City, when it was him, Durant, and Westbrook all on the same team. Durant might have left that year. I don't know, but pardon me. But anyway, Artest, he's a little excited, and I think he might have scored a bucket or something. Then, as Harden's running down the court, Artest cracked him with an same type of elbow to the head, to the dome. He was suspended. Artest was. At that time, and right now, Artest just doesn't matter in the NBA history. When the history of the NBA is written, Ron Artest will just be a guy. I know to some of y'all, he's a nice, colorful, this, that, and the other. But at the end of the day, he's just a guy. He's one of however many, 15,000, 20,000 players that have played in the NBA. He's just one of them. There's been plenty of guys like him. Guys with limited offensive skill, much better on defense, kind of a menace, kind of a little bit of a jerk-off on the court. There's been plenty of them like him. Just like right now, there's Draymond Green, and right after Draymond Green, the guy who's going to replace Draymond Green, Dylan Brooks. Before Ron Artest, there was your boy Dennis Rodman, Charles Oakley. You know, guys are just menaces on the floor. And, you know, I'm not saying I don't even know what Nas Reed's stats are, but I know he doesn't matter. That's why the NBA had no problem suspending Draymond Green the year he cracked LeBron in the balls. Or whatever that situation was, where, you know, that Golden State Cleveland series, where LeBron and Cleveland came back from down 3-1 and won it. You know, they probably only got that title because Draymond got suspended for a game. And the reason why he was suspended is because LeBron matters. Draymond doesn't. You know, like I said, there's a million guys like him, just like Artest, just like Al. You know, there's a million guys like that. And see, that's why us older men, you see them grays. You know, like Sid said, and like Cedric the Entertainer said in Barbershop, that represents seniority. You know, you see these grays. But yeah, this is why us older men come off as haters when it comes to sports in the previous generations. Or, and you know, in the following generations, not the previous, the generations behind us. Why? Because at our big ages, we realize what matters, what doesn't matter, who matters, who don't matter. You understand? You know, that's why we quick to cut off, we're quick to cut off friends and especially women. Quick to cut off people. You don't matter anymore. You know, been watching, sports all our lives. We realize which guys matter and which guys are just guys. Wemby matters. When the history of the, as of right now, if the history of the NBA was written today, not saying he would get his own chapter, but he's going to be written about heavily. Artest won't even be written about in college. Sorry for the motorcycle going by. Artest, I mean, like I said, he's a household name. Well, maybe he wasn't a household name. That's why he changed his name to World Peace, Meta World Peace. You know, shout out Rich Dollars, the battle rapper, because that's what happened to me. Some dude was giving me a problem. And, introduced him to the Nina. All of a sudden he went from Soul Street to Raw. He went from Soul Street to World Peace when he met her. You know what I'm saying? Shout out Rich Dollars, though. If you know, you know. But yeah, those guys don't matter. 1989. Some of you guys, a lot of you people watching this video probably weren't even born. 1989, Pete Rose. He was the manager of the Cincinnati Reds. He was retired, but he was still a very recognizable name in baseball. Everybody loved him. He had the most hits in baseball. He gets suspended for the gambling. Allegedly, then NBA Commissioner David Stern told then baseball commissioner Bart Giamatti, like, you're crazy. You don't suspend stars. What happened 3 years later? 4 years later? Michael Jordan in the NBA and the gambling issue. There's stories are coming out about him gambling, being up at 2 a.m. in Atlantic City when they got a playoff game the next day against the Knicks. All this and that. It's not unreasonable. Jordan has always denied it, and everybody, the NBA has always denied it, but it's not unreasonable to think that the NBA told Jordan, like, yo, fall back to some of this, till this smoke blows over. Jordan goes off and plays baseball. It's not unreasonable. Like I said, it's not unreasonable to think that the league told him that. And not saying that the Wemby thing is that significant, but I'm just trying to illustrate to you. There are some players that matter. There are some guys that don't matter. They're just guys. That's why you see a lot of these guys doing podcasts when they're done. Okay, yeah, it's a nice, revenue stream, especially if you get a big sponsor. Like that betting company, or what is that, 365 Sports or whatever, or just some of these sponsors they got. It's even more money, onto the money that they made in the league, which was, probably approaching $100 million or more. And they go on these podcasts and try to reimagine their careers and redraw up their careers, to try to make you think they actually mattered. God love them. I love All the Smoke podcast. Steven Jackson and Matt Barnes. Matt Barnes, Steven Jackson. From what I understand, Matt, what's his name? What's the guy name from Houston? Spit on somebody. Or he went up in the stands and was about to put hands on somebody. Vernon Maxwell and Michael Irvin. Apparently they're part of that universe as well. The All the Smoke podcast. But those guys, when they first started their podcast, they've gotten a lot better. Shout out to you, Barnes and Jacksons, Stat 5. When they first started their podcast, all they were doing is just telling everybody, like, yeah, we was the realest in the league ever. The league, we was just too real for the league. Blah, blah, blah. They've gotten better, and I my hat's off to them. They've gotten better, because I was ready to stay away from them for a while, or just forever. But then, they got better. Started having, once it's, Matt Barnes does seem to be a baseball fan. I'll fuck with him on that. But, some of these other guys, like Jeff Teague, it's just a guy. Got a couple colorful stories, but at the end of the day, when the NBA is written, nobody's going to even mention Jeff Teague. Some of these guys don't matter. And that's what happened with Naz Reid. That's why Wemby didn't get suspended. Wemby matters. We've got to have him on TV as much as humanly possible. One elbow after some rough play, and other than that, he's been a good citizen. No, we're not suspending him. Good call by Adam Silver, or who's ever in charge of NBA discipline. Good call. But tell me what you think. Oh, let me tell you one more thing before I go. I saw Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett. I seen a clip of their podcast. They were talking about how these athletes don't care anymore. That's another thing, that they're always, waxing poetic about their generation and some of the generations before them. But, who didn't like, one or both of them? But at the end of the day, Kevin Garnett was saying that, he's like, hey, I remember seeing AI, Iverson crying after a loss. I remember the Kobe crying after the Detroit finals when the Lakers got lost in like 5, to Detroit. He was like, where's that hunger at, that care of the game? These guys don't care about the game like that anymore. How you gonna care about the game how you gonna really give a damn and cry about a game? You're getting $20 million a year and you only score 8 points a game. Yeah, you get a nice bag and get to talk all that shit on podcasts and everywhere afterward. But once your career is over, you won't matter to the league. But tell me what you think. Is there a pecking order in sports? Should Wemby have been suspended? Are you okay with the suspension? The answer to these questions and more will be on the next episode of Soap. Make sure you like and subscribe. Holla.